Trina Flannery Erickson. I'm the gallery director for the Scarab Club, and we're so happy to host this lovely tea, and I want to thank all the people who were so involved in it. I'm afraid to mention names because I'll leave someone out, but this is just the Detroit Society of Women Painters and Sculptors has been fabulous and worked so hard to put this all together. So I'd like to thank them for it. And Brenda certainly as well for all that she's done. But I'd like to welcome everybody, and I know we have people from all around the country, so I hope you've been enjoying Detroit and that you'll go back and say good things about the city, wherever you are. I'm just going to say a few words about the Scarab Club because many of you may not be familiar with it. It was founded in 1907. It started off very much as kind of a, to be honest, white elitist men's club. Women weren't even allowed above the first floor at one point in time. And one of the significant things, among many, many other things about Patricia Hill Burnett is that she was one of the first women to have a studio here. And I always remember the story, Pat. I asked Patricia, because I know that men were not thrilled initially to have her there. And she can tell you more about this. But I asked her, well, how did you win them over? And she said, I'll never forget this, I kept a fully stocked bar and my door open. So Patricia has always known how to charm everyone here. Right. I always remember too, Patricia, every time you had a lecture here, how drawn everyone was to you. Men of all ages would be tongue-tied and bringing you punch and bringing you drinks and food, and the women loved her as much as the men just because she's so gracious and fabulous. So, and I've had more than one guy tell me, I think I have a little bit of a crush on Patricia Hill. I remember one time, Patricia, when you gave a lecture here, you asked for a show of hands of how many people in the audience were feminists, and the only man who raised his hand was Bill Bostic. And many of you in this room know Bill. He was a former secretary of the DIA for 30 years. He was the founder of the Michigan Watercolor Society, a real true Renaissance man. And when Bill was the president of the Scarab Club, he is the one who shamed the board into having women, voting to have women have full membership here. Before that time, women could have auxiliary memberships, but they couldn't be recognized as full members. Thankfully, that's long in the past. And then another significant thing about Patricia is that she called the meeting for the founding meeting for the Michigan chapter of NOW at the Scarab Club, which I'm sure sent many of the founders spinning in their graves to everyone else's delight. But again, thank you so much for coming. I would be happy to show any of you afterwards, show you at least one of the studios on the 3rd floor and answer any questions you might have about the club. But thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your time.
We honor you, Patricia Hill Burnett, for your extraordinary contributions in the area of feminist activism and the art of portraiture.
Oh, how thrilling. Oh my goodness. I'll take this to my grave. Isn't that nice? And what a nose. Have you been in these studios here? No. They're treasures. They've got balconies, and you could put a bed up there if you want to. You could really live in one if you want to, which we kind of frowned on, but people did it anyhow. But I got a studio, and the men were furious. Then they said, we've got to put our pants on when we go out in the corridor. What the hell's going on, you know? And I'd go to the bathroom, and they'd purposely walk in on me. And if you've ever had, you know, these stockings that come up to your waist, you know, and try to get to the door to shut it, just to go to the bathroom, it ain't easy, believe me. Oh, and they really tried everything they could to be rude and uncooperative and so forth. And so I decided to, she gave away my secret. I set up a bar. And I had the door open. Anytime anybody went in, I said, oh, would you like to come in and have a drink, you know? And eventually they came in, and then I started to paint. And I was a pretty good painter. And they kind of recognized I was one of their own, whether they liked it or not. But still, they were walking in the bathroom. And finally, one day, I was in there, and I went up to the door, and here was this tiny little gold lock on the door, and it meant that my heavenly men had finally decided to accept me. It was so nice. So anyhow, I kept that open bar for quite a few years, believe me, to be sure they wouldn't throw me out. But I've had such a deep love for this club. It's done so much for me and for so many artists. Because look at the people around here. They have a chance to exhibit their beautiful work. And really, these paintings are way, way, way above any kind of standard that you would expect. They're just superb, I think. I'm going to send one down too if they'll let me have one down here. So anyhow, but I've never stopped painting, still doing portraits, and gotten into flowers somehow or other, I don't know. I was always a passionate feminist and was angry that, you know, the Equal Rights Amendment would not pass, and it will never pass. You wait and see. In your lifetime, you won't see it pass. And what it is, saying that women are equal to men, and that they should have equal rights. And our government won't pass it because it would mean women would have to have equal wages for men, and it would cost the companies billions of dollars, and they're much too sharp to pass that. So anyhow, if you could get it through, it'll make all of the difference in the world. Because I think now we earn 96 cents on a man's dollar, something like that. So, well, anyhow, that's my passion. I'd love to see it pass before I die. But keep pushing and stay mad to the end of your life. Don't just, you know, say things are just fine. They're not just fine. They're rotten. And if we can't get a proclamation that women are equal to men through the government, honey, we're still not on top. We're still not equal. So sorry to get diverted on that. I had a studio for 25 years in this wonderful place.
Wow.
And one day I moved and managed to have a studio in my home, so I gave up the studio here. But what fun. And I'd come up, and there'd always be a party going on in here. The men were playing checkers. Mostly they love to do that. And we always had such wonderful exhibitions of paintings like this. They were just superb. And I bought a few along the way. And boy, looking at them here, I just think they're very exciting. What the work that you have up here is splendid. And is it, by the way, is it all for sale, or is it?
No, these aren't for sale because they're from our permanent collection, but the work down on the first floor is. I wanted to ask you, I always am impressed with how bold you are in everything that you do. And that's what impressed me about your story about going to New York. And it was at Betty Friedan's house you
went
to?
Oh yes, I forgot that. All right. Well, I have always been a feminist and a passionate one. And I want to start now in Michigan. So I need a drink. So I decided that I collect dues for our New Now organization. So guess what the dues were? $3 each. So I invited 40 women to the Scarab Club to talk about now. And believe me, I didn't know you were supposed to get the level of women who don't have much income. I invited 40 of the most powerful women in Detroit. Every lawyer, every doctor, every important woman who had her own business came, and they all signed up for now at $3 each. So I took all that money, and Betty Friedan was easy to find. She was right listed in the New York what is it?
Phone book.
Yeah, phone book, right. And so I didn't even call her. I just went over there and knocked on the door, and somebody, it was a New York apartment where the stairs go right down to the door, and this woman opened the door, and she looked at me aghast, and she said, called up, she said, "Betty, there's a woman down here in a chinchilla hat and muff, and she wants to see you." And Betty said, "Well, send her up." And I went up, and here she was having a press conference. And there was this one woman who was, well, she was black, very pretty, she weighed about 300 pounds, and she was head of the National Mothers Institution. Then there was another woman who was Chinese, and she was head of another organization. And one by one, all of these different entities came out from different women's groups. I was so thrilled. And they said, "Great, you're dressed up fine. You can represent the other end of this group," which was not exactly an honor. Anyhow, I moved right in and was so proud to be a member right in this room we organized. And it was really something to be remembered. Lots of wonderful things have happened in this room, and lots of famous people. Have you looked at the names of who's up here? They're incredible people. I don't know. Somebody's got to help me with that.
Oh, Diego Rivera.
Yeah.
Marcel Duchamp. Norman Rockwell. Charles McGee. John Sloan.
Oh.
Dos Passos. Patricia Hill Burnett.
Oh my gosh, isn't that wonderful?
Yeah, you're in good company.
Well, let me tell you, if you're invited to have your name up here, it's the greatest honor you could get in the city for your art, so be proud. Anyhow, I wonder if any of you would like to ask me any questions about the club.
Well, I wanted to ask you about some of the famous people you've painted.
Oh my, yes, well, I decided that I would send out a brochure of my work, which was quite complete, it had quite a few pages in it, and ask if they would consider commissioning me to paint their portrait. And the "they" was Margaret Thatcher, Corazon Aquino, who was head of the Philippines. Oh gosh, I could go on and on. There were some women governors, women mayors.
Wives of presidents?
Pardon?
Wives of presidents?
Yeah.
People like
Right.
Indira Gandhi, Barbara Walters,
Right.
Marla Thomas.
And they responded. And
Rosa
during
Parks.
it was really, Barbara Walters was so much fun, and they paid me. You know, that's important. And believe me, if you're painting a portrait, let me give you a tip. Always ask for a third down. They get much more sincere with a third down, and they never disappear, right? So a third down, and then collect immediately after. Don't let them take the painting and disappear. Sorry, there's a few sad facts about dealing in your artwork. But anyway.
Oh, Patricia, would you mind telling the story of painting Indira Gandhi?
Oh, I'd love to. I had sent my brochure to her and said, "Oh, I'm just going to be around in India." You know, and really, I went around the world 4 times by myself, alone. And that's the best way to ever travel. Don't travel with somebody else. Because if you have a friend, you're forever sitting with them at every single meal, next to them at every single means of transportation, and you never get to meet anybody.